Having been called to be a pastor in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and God taking me to Anchorage, Alaska, He had a purpose in that because that church was a church planting church. That church was a charismatic church, but it was also a very strong theological church. And in that theology and the teaching, the foundational setting that I had, I was also able to go through their Bible college courses while I was still in the Air Force. It was up there also that I met my wife, Roseanne, and we were married in May of 1974. And then I got out of the Air Force in 1975, and it was in November of 75 that the church recognized my call as a pastor and ordained me to be sent out as the 24th team that they sent out of that local congregation. And a team was basically comprised of people that the pastor would recruit to go with him and go plant a church from scratch, by the way. So my wife and I set out with our 4-month-old daughter. I was out of the Air Force in January of 1976, and God called me to go back to the very place I was saved in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And so when I arrived, planted the first church, found a building to meet in, and it was just moving on from there. So one of the things that developed in my life during that time there, I was there for 7.5 years, I was preaching and teaching 5 times a week. I had 3 services I was teaching, and then I also had a Bible school that I did on the weekends. So that was a lot of study time that I had to do. And always, because of my study habits that I developed when I was in the Air Force and that 5.5 hours a day, 5 days a week of study, I never stopped doing that kind of spiritual discipline. So what happened is that translated then into my study habits as a pastor, because I had to prepare teaching material, I had to prepare for our Bible colleges, I had to prepare messages every week. And so that was hours for each time I was speaking that I had to put in doing my research. We didn't have any kind of internet thing going on back then. We just had books. I had to do research in the scriptures. I had to come up with all the resource out of the Word of God and then put together an outline and then kind of go from there. So this was a lot of things that was built into my discipline as a disciple of the Lord myself. So I developed into a teacher. And in 1982, my peers in the network of churches that I was a part of, which was the Sending Church, recognized my gift as a teacher and ordained me into the office of a teacher. So I was recognized throughout the church network that we were a part of as a teacher ordained by God. Now, let's fast forward, planting other churches, planting a Bible college also, and developing 3-year curriculum for that. After 40 years, I had established 3 church plants and pastored each church. But in 2011, in coming upon my 40th year, about 3 or 4 years out, I went on a sabbatical in 2011, and I just turned 60 that year, and I wanted to know what God wanted me to do for the next decade, because I was feeling a shift coming in my life. And in that sabbatical, just me and the Lord, did a lot of praying, a lot of journaling, and He then told me what I was supposed to do. And He said that discipleship in His church was MIA, missing in action, and that He was going to raise up generals in this nation that He was going to put it on their heart to establish systems and processes to develop and encourage and inspire people to not only become disciples, but to become disciple makers. So I was transitioning from being a pastor of a local church on 3 times through into becoming a discipler. And one of the reasons why I did not have this before in my pastoring experience and years is I looked at discipleship as me teaching them from the pulpit, having a Bible school, and just feeding them well. But I wasn't doing the Jesus model, which I'll talk about in the next session. But what I did was, I thought this was discipleship. So when God gave me this assignment to create a discipleship movement myself, and he said that of the generals that he was going to raise up, he wanted me to be a general. And of course, I didn't know where to begin. And what does that mean, I would be a general? And so I began to do my research, looked at what's out there, and trying to get some idea of what that may look like. And as I continue to just seek the Lord about it, finally he speaks to me and says, Jay, what I want you to do is ask yourself this question: how did you disciple yourself? Because I became a disciple myself on my own from the standpoint of not having anybody to lead me by the hand and show me how to do it. And so what happened is I began to go over my mind, well, this is what I do, this is how I feed myself, this is how I do my devotionals, this is how my spiritual disciplines have always been, and this is what caused me to grow. And then I'm sharing with with people what I learned, and that seemed to make it sit in my spirit even stronger. It's like stick to my bones, so to speak. So in doing that, I believe that was the growth that happened to me. And a pastor in the church should be the fastest growing person in the church because he's doing research, study, Bible reading, the spiritual disciplines, and then sharing what he had learned with the congregation. Now, if you can get that into a discipleship format and system in a group of 4 people, then you've got a winning combination. And so God gave me this system, this process of them doing the research, them doing the studying. I'm taking them by the hand week after week in how to study the Bible, layer upon layer, and to get to know the Bible as a whole to the part, and from the part to the whole, and utilize the method that I had done for myself. Because if you want to disciple someone, and we are called by in the Great Commission to become disciplers of nations, then we need to know how to start with ourselves. How do we disciple ourselves? Because without that personal discipline and without some kind of systematic approach to doing that, we won't know how to pass that on to someone else. And so discipleship was given to me, the template of it was given to me by virtue of the way I applied the spiritual disciplines of Bible reading, fasting, prayer, journaling, and then sharing that with others. And that's what he gave me as the process and as the template. And that has been the winning combination for why this has been so effective in people's lives and why it works so effectively. So this is why I'm excited to present this to you, to present this experience to you, to present the materials to you. And I will talk to you in the next session about the Jesus model for discipleship.